Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Magic Mindfulness Podcast. I have a very exciting guest with me today, Suzanne McCahill Perrine. Welcome, Suzanne.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me. And can I just start off by saying how amazing you are? That I admire so much that you're doing this and that you're such a great presence in our community and beyond. Because yeah, no, really, I mean, what you're doing it's not easy. I know it takes a lot of your time. You've got a lot on your plate, and that you are um, just, you know, you're being of service to the community. And I think that's just amazing. And I really appreciate this. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Aw. So Suzanne, you've been an inspiration to me for so many years. Suzanne is a yoga teacher and trainer. She's an Ayurveda and Wellness Coach. She's a retreat leader, the creator of Embodied Vitality for Women. And I was introduced to your world through the center, which you brought to Harrisonburg in 2005, I believe. Um,
Yeah.
do you want to tell us a little bit about that or anything that's on your heart to just introduce yourself?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So from the, way back, you said 2005. So before that, I was a Pilates teacher and a dance teacher locally and everything. And that was fun. But I was really curious about yoga, but what my experience of yoga hadn't really been that broad at the time, some going to gyms and stuff like that. But there wasn't a whole lot at the time in Harrisonburg. But I actually started the center because there was really no place else at the moment that had a community for people that people could go to. And so that was my main focus, was the community aspect, and that people could come and feel like it was like an oasis, a place to come and practice. And so we had Pilates and yoga there, and we had another yoga teacher for a while, and I sort of dabbled in it a little bit. But then in 2006, I went and signed up for my first yoga training, which, my first teacher that I had, her name's Desiree Rumbaugh. Maybe you've heard the name, but I went to a weekend training, which was really fun. I had never done anything like that before. And so I went, and it ended up being a training for teachers, which was very funny because I was not a yoga teacher. So that was a hoot. But all I know is that when I left there, it was 3 days. So I'd drive home back and forth from Charlottesville to Harrisonburg. And I just remember feeling like there was this something I hadn't seen before, like a dirty window had been cleaned off. You know how you experience that in yoga. It's like, or sometimes I feel like a lot of us are living in a world because you have these conditions and we understand things from our own perspective, but then we get a different perspective, and we from a different part of ourselves, and it was like either a light was shining or a wall had fallen down or a door had opened, however you want, whatever metaphor works. But I just knew that there was something to that. So yeah, I embarked on my teacher training in 2006, and it was a two-year process, 10 months and another 11 months on top of that. But in that time, I got a taste of Ayurveda, and the rest is history.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my
So
God.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I'll go on if you want, but didn't know if you wanted to interject or.
No, I was just going to say how I love that analogy because it's so fitting how it's like yoga is like cleaning a dirty window that you don't know has been dirty. You've been looking through this lens and you
Yeah.
didn't know. And my own experience with yoga has been, at first I came to it just for the physical practice. And then I was like, there's something to this. There's
Wait
something
a
deeper
second.
here.
I drank the Kool-Aid. Right.
Yes, that's exactly it.
What just happened? There's this whole other world. It's sort of like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. You know how like in the beginning of the movie it's all black and white, or and then she goes and then suddenly there's like this technicolor brightness, and she's in this whole world where there's like munchkins and flying witches and candy people. I don't even know. And it's like, where the heck am I? And that's kind of what it feels like with yoga. Like this world is there all the time. It's just and I even love the analogy. I didn't mean to go down that road actually, but it's kind of the yellow brick road, I guess, or the yoga road. But it's also like this, how Dorothy, all she had to do was click her heels together 3 times, and then she was able to go back home.
Yes.
Really, yoga and Ayurveda is just these simple, quote unquote, tricks, I guess, that open up this world, but then at the same time they bring us back home, and it's like we have the tools. That's what I love about these practices and Ayurveda so much. is that we already have all this wisdom inside of us. We just need someone to show the way, and then it's then the path you take is so unique and individual. But yeah.
I love how I love how you said that. That's just so,
Um,
it's so the way it is. I mean, it's inside all of us, but it takes that awareness, that knowing, the tricks and tools and techniques to access that inner knowing. But then once you access it, it opens up a brand new world for us. It's amazing. It's so powerful, but so simple at the same
Exactly.
time.
Yeah, that's what I like to say to students all the time. It's simple, but not easy. Right.
Exactly, exactly. And I love how you said it's like coming home, because that's exactly how yoga feels to me. That's how many of the teachers that I've trained with over the years have said, it's just like, it's a process of coming home to yourself, to who you truly are at your core.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if I think about like a brand new baby that's born, and there's this, like, you see their eyes and they're just, they look around and there's just this, it's like they can see something that we can't see. And then their diapers get soiled, and then they get hungry, and then suddenly they start having wants and desires that they never really had. Because before, in utero, everything was just like fine. They didn't have to, everything took care of itself. And then suddenly they have these, they get uncomfortable and they have to cry to get the attention, and so the outer world is already starting to imprint on them. And of course it happens in utero as well, but there is like this immediately, as soon as we're born, this layering effect, and so we are right away being kind of covered up by our external experiences. And so, but then we reach this, hopefully as we get older, we finally reach these places in our lives where maybe it's through crisis or just we just get lucky or whatever, but we just reach this place where it's like, I am not myself anymore,
Yes.
or something's happened. And so it's like, I I either can live the rest of my life not knowing and not caring to know, but once you know a little bit, like the window's been opened, or the window's been cleared off, just a little teeny bits you can peek through. There's there's no one knowing that. You know what I mean? You have to know it. And then you start to kind of just peel off those accumulations that we've had since the day we were born, which is so natural. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong with us. We're not broken. And so the practice of yoga, this idea of coming home, is so profound. And then Ayurveda, I love too, because it takes this really holistic and almost systematic approach to healing the body, because Ayurveda is really about, it's like, Ayurveda is this what they sometimes say, the sister science of yoga, or if you think of it as two sides of the coin. But a lot of people know, or they think they know what yoga is, but no, most people don't really know a lot about Ayurveda, and that's kind of where that's where I'm going now. Is like, that's just, to me, another way of getting, it's a really deep spiritual practice.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's so powerful. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things where you can't unsee what you've seen. Like you said, once you make that little tiny window, once you clear off that small little spot, you have
Yeah.
that inner knowing that you can go deeper. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm 43, I'll be 44 this year. And I just feel like I need to spend some intentional time and energy unraveling the layers, like kind of unpeeling the layers of an onion, like unpeeling all of these things that I've picked up over the years that don't align with my goals and my values, and that are making me, like you said, like I don't know who I am, like I've done a lot of inner work. I do have a sense of who I am, but the women I work with, the women you work with, they've lost that. We've lost that along the way.
Exactly. Yeah. And once you understand that all of that is actually inside of you already, when you can awaken that part of you, and know that she just needs a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of awakening to that wisdom, I mean. And I think that is, yeah, incredibly, incredibly empowering. It is whatever you think, peeling off the onions or whatever. And thank God we are a work in progress. I mean, how boring would it be if everything was perfect all the time? You know what I mean? Like, I think of it as a game almost, and it's just it's can be really beautiful. And some of the things that we uncover along the way, and the peeling and the cleaning and stuff, or whatever we want to call it, um, can be painful. And because I think about this too, Rachel, that I mean, not only are we, have the layers of all the imprints of everything that's happened in our lives, it's the people, the way they talk to us, or the experience that we've had and stuff, but we're also, our mind is also imprinted by, or the samskaras, or still can be there. We call samskaras the stuckness or the grooves or the patterns that we have are also oftentimes imprinted from our family, our lineage. And so something that our mom or dad went through, they're going to imprint on us by either, in Ayurveda, they say it happens at conception. That imprint starts to happen, or even the way that, you're raised, the belief systems that your parents have, that becomes your belief system. And then you're like, and just, yeah. And then it's just this continuous questioning, like, why is that a belief system that I have? Or society is imprinting on us. And so, yeah, there's this, we are works in progress for sure. And yeah. Yeah.
And I love how you bring that playfulness and that curiosity to this process, because I always say in practice, like on the mat, when we're practicing a pose that might be a little challenging or that takes us a little bit out of our comfort zone, that our practice just reminds us not to take ourselves so seriously, because so often in life we take ourselves so seriously.
I
And
know.
if we can just bring that playfulness, that curiosity, that openness, and that awareness to it, even when it's painful, we can approach it from this lens of curiosity and understanding and inner knowing.
Yeah, because oftentimes the pain point, the things that are painful we can either look at them as like, we wish they weren't there, or we can look at it and say, this is something that I can learn from, and how can I learn from this pain point? That's so, I've moved more towards the Ayurveda. And of course, just a really brief, mention about it. Ayurveda is, again, this sort of like sometimes called a science. Ayur means life, and Veda means knowledge or study of, or science sometimes. But so Ayurveda is indeed the study of life. It's self-study, I guess, is where I was going. It's the practice we call Svadhyaya. Shva means the self. And so Ayurveda is a practice of studying ourselves, just like yoga. And so we can come with it with other kind of pain points, like, man, I've got this diabetes now, or what just happened? How did this happen? How did I gain 30 pounds, or how is it so hard for me to sleep at night or to get up off the couch, and my body hurts a lot. And yes, indeed, a lot of these things are normal, very normal parts of the aging process. We understand that we are aging from the moment we're conceived, but can we look at these things that are happening, not take them too seriously, know that that's just part of our experience and part of our awareness, and yet know that there are things that we can do, there are tools that we can use to even physically start that in unclearing or unlayering process, and look at our things like, what are your habits, how do you wake up in the morning, what's your daily rhythm like? And that's in Ayurveda. It's the same kind of concept, but you just do it a little bit differently. You look at the body, you look at your habits, you look at your routines and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I just love how this ancient science or study, how it gives you this roadmap, but yet it can still be so personalized. Like it takes into account the individual. But at the same time, there are these currents or these patterns that are applicable to all of humanity, to all of us. And so it offers us this roadmap, this path, and how we follow it, or how we might choose to follow it, can be very individual.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. I appreciate that image of the map, like if you go to a new city or something, oftentimes we'll use a map, right, to kind of, and the first thing we do when we look at a map is we look at, where are you? You have the big map.
Yes.
Here, and that's where you are in your yoga practice. That's where you are in your Ayurveda practice. Like, I am here. And then, okay, so where do I want to go? The map will help you, like you said, kind of, oh, I want to go to a bakery, I go this way, or I want to, and so there are these different things, but along the way, you can take your own, your own pathway to get there, but you have the general idea where you want to go. And I love that you said that's really great, because Ayurveda has these main pillars, like, and I think about this too, especially I love to work with women now that are 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond, like perimenopause and beyond. That's kind of my favorite place to work right now. But Ayurveda says that there are these three main pillars, or like you can think of them as legs of a stool, to looking at our health. And basically it's sleep and brahmacharya, which is sometimes called Nidra is sleep, as you know, and brahmacharya can also be seen as if you take it literally in a masculine way, brahmacharya can mean like celibacy, but if we think of it more from a feminine perspective, really what it is, it's how we're using our energy, right? So it's basically that. And of course our food. So our food is our third pillar. So the food and the sleep and how we use our energy. And so we can look at these three pillars, and each individual person can start to say, I need to spend more time on maybe this person has, they're already really, really great with their diet, with their food, but they say yes to everyone. They push, they go, and then they're just going so quickly. So maybe that woman or that person, her focus needs to be on that. Like, all right, I need to really, because if I keep up the way I'm going, I'm going to burn myself out. So maybe that person's focus is on that, whereas somebody else's might be on more rest, like sleeping and resting and doing the yoga nidra practices. And so, yeah, so those are the three main pillars in Ayurveda that we look at. So yeah, anyway, but they're wonderful practices too. Yeah.
And I love that visual that you shared. It's like the analogy of the three-legged stool, because you can so easily picture that, how when the stool has three legs and they're all built up pretty evenly, that stool is going to be pretty stable and pretty solid. But if any of those legs are missing or shorter than the others, that stool is going to be unstable and it's not going to support you. And that's just such a powerful visual. And I can so relate to all of those. I was your second pillar a few years ago, where my energy was not being, I was not being very mindful where I was spending my energy. I was saying yes to everything. I didn't have healthy boundaries in place. And so I had to be very mindful and very intentional, building that self-awareness and putting these practices into place to protect my energy. And so now I feel like my stool is more balanced, but I just love how you shared that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate that, because I've heard you speak to that in your podcast and stuff too, about the importance of setting healthy boundaries and not having to say yes to everything. And one of the things I do with my clients in Ayurveda is we look at, the same kind of thing. And like, we look at the energy and also the boundaries, and what is it that you're hanging on to? What is this need to say yes? Like, what is it that who are you saying yes to, And so we kind of look at that a little bit, and but that's just one of the things we do. So yeah, and I think also, because I like to work with women in their 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond, and a lot of women at that time of life are either, if they've raised children, they might be getting close to finishing up, or they've got older kids, or maybe their kids have left the house. And so perhaps they're realizing like, wow, I've been saying yes and doing all this stuff for so many years. What now? Or maybe, instead, perhaps they've been career oriented and they've just been go on their career. And same thing. It's like, okay, now I'm at this juncture in my life where, do I want to keep going how I am? Is this really it? And so a lot of women at these ages start to really look at their lives and kind of figure out what they want. And they, I would say, most women I talk to don't need anything real fancy and amazing. They just want to feel good. They want to be able to get up and down off the floor. They want to play with their grandkids. They want to be able to have the I guess the drive, or they want to really know their deep desires. They really want to know themselves. And it's like, I do want to go on that yoga retreat, or I do want to sign up for that teacher training, or I don't want to go to that party that the entire family is going on. And so you start to really at this juncture say, okay, this is where I want to go. And but it's not easy, it's not easy to do, but it's a practice. But oh my gosh, it can be so liberating, yeah. So
Yes,
Mhm.
it certainly is. And like you said earlier, we've got this conditioning. Maybe we've been conditioned towards people pleasing, or like you said, saying yes to everything when we don't know why. Like it's not a heart-centered yes. It's a I feel like I should yes.
Mhm.
Or maybe we've lost touch with who we are for various reasons, committing to the career, committing to raising children or a family. And then you find yourself in this space where, for whatever reason, you have more time to focus on yourselves and you don't know who you are anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I think that's why, again, I go back to the Ayurveda piece too, because so, one of the practices that we do, and it can seem controversial at first because one of the practices we look at mindful eating, and it's a big deal right now. And, but for Ayurveda, we also talk about the mindful eating piece. I think a lot of us are used to just eating without thinking about it. And in doing so, we might actually consume more than we need because we are a culture who consumes. We consume stuff, we consume food, we consume media, we like to consume, consume, consume. And so one of the practices we do, for example, is I suggest to women, like, what if you let yourself get hungry? Because for some people, they don't get that concept. Like they don't, like, oh, I can feel a deep growl in my stomach. And then you feed yourself, right? Of course, it's not supposed to be like you're supposed to wait to be starving or anything. But it's actually a beautiful thing because when people start to do that, they let their digestive fire get stoked a little bit. Then they also start to go, wow, it'd be like if you didn't let yourself get hungry before you eat, it would be like not exhaling completely before you inhale. You just keep trying to inhale again. And we know how that goes, not so great. And so that's one of the practices that we do. So then doing that, what happens is you let your digestive fire work a little bit better. You start to regulate what we call Agni, your digestive fire. You start to regulate your metabolism. But in doing that, in that emptier time, that space, when you clear out, you start to play around with doing that in your mind too, right? So then you start to notice, wow, I'm noticing the emptiness in my stomach between meals. I'm just noticing, right? Because it's self-study. I'm noticing the space between my breath more too, and what that feels like. I'm actually starting to notice the space between my thoughts as well, and that there is space between my thoughts, and 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 then there's this sense of clearing out, that spaciousness starts to grow. We call it akasha, but that we start to kind of crave almost that empty space. And in that empty space is where there's quiet and we learn so much about ourselves. So that's what I'm saying, like Ayurveda can look at it as not just meditation and breath work, but it's also, your digestion and the way we eat our foods too.
That's so
Yeah.
powerful. Yes, it's amazing how the body and the mind are so interconnected. And over time, it's easy for us to lose touch with knowing how to tune into our body. So, like you said, just that powerful but simple practice of learning to tune into our body's hunger cues, of noticing when our stomach's growling, it expands, it ripples out into so many other areas of our life that we may not have ever even expected.
Right, exactly. Yeah, precisely. And then of course we look at it in other ways too, right? We look at it in, like, if you think of the three legs of the stool, you can also look at, like we talked about, the energy and then also the sleep, right? And make sure you're getting plenty of rest. And one of the things that's so funny, I talk to women about all the time, and I think naturally we start to go to bed a little bit earlier as we get older. But I'm amazed at, and I fall into this too, but about that consumption of stimulation always coming in from the phones or whatever. But it's amazing how many people I talk to, and I can raise my hand here too. I do the same thing sometimes, but that is like stay up late and oftentimes on their screens at night, you know what I mean? And how that disrupts our sleep. And so I work with women too. And I'm like, can we talk about that? Can we talk about your evening habits and how that's going to affect your sleep and the importance of that? I don't know. Have you read the book, Why We Sleep?
No, I should add it to my list though.
Yeah, it's really good. There's a book called Why. So of course you probably read Breath by James Nestor,
Oh yeah.
right? Everyone loves that one. So Breath by James Nestor is fantastic. And I think all women who are getting older need to regulate their nervous system more than ever and find ease more than ever. But there's this great book it's called Why We Sleep by Matthew. We'll have to figure it out later, but this title is called Why We Sleep. Fantastic book. And there's this kind of like, I don't know, I've heard about people say when they get older, they need less sleep. And I would say that, and he says the same thing, that's actually not true, right? We still need good sleep. And so we talk about that and in our groups of women and like, because our hormones are changing and we're having a hard time struggling with sleep. And so we're like, what can you do, right, to help you get deeper sleep? Doesn't have to be perfect because we know there's no perfect, but what are you actually doing? I mean, get good and honest about that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really
Mhm.
powerful too. And I
Yeah.
can almost see like the legs of the stool, like if you don't get enough sleep, then it's harder to regulate your energy. And so they're also interconnected as well. When will you do better in one, or when one feels more supportive for you, it's easier to focus your energy and your attention on the other ones where you may be feeling like you're lagging a little bit or struggling a little bit more.
That's so true. And I appreciate that you have that too, because, one of the things about Ayurveda, we talk a lot about the diurnal rhythms, the rhythms of the season, but also the rhythms of the day as well, and funny you say that about the sleep pattern. So if we look at all three legs of the stool here, if we start with food first, and we talk about this a lot too, as I suggest to women as often as possible, because we are always going for the B minus. We're going to go for the B minus 8 out of 10. We are not looking for perfection. And I know everyone, a lot of these women I talk to, and I was the same way, like went for the A's in school and stuff. It's like, let that go now. But as often as possible, if we can eat our dinner earlier in the evening and give a good long window from our last bite of food, when possible, we go on vacations, but if we can do that before we go to bed, what happens is really cool is that our bodies then, when we sleep, ideally by like around 10 o'clock, but when we sleep, then those first hours of the night, our bodies do a natural kind of detoxification. Our bodies, it's called autophagy, and our bodies start to take out the trash, so to speak, like the cells that are no longer serving us. And it does this amazing. It also does almost like a detoxing of emotions that don't serve us as well. Like our mind is doing the same thing. It's just a beautiful time of just a beautiful time of night. But if we've eaten too late or we eat too much, the body can't do that. So the body has to try to digest food while you're sleeping. Then what happens? You wake up in the morning, you feel groggy, you feel, your energy is low, you know what I mean? And then use the same thing. So, or the other thing, like you said, is you don't sleep well. And then you feel simultaneously kind of achy and heavy, but also like stressed out, So all works, and like you said, it just all works together so well. But yeah.
It does.
Mhm.
And so I know you use these tools of Ayurveda, of yoga, of all of these holistic wellness practices to support women in their 40s and beyond through perimenopause, hormonal changes, aging with grace. You
Yeah.
teach yoga online and locally here at the center in Harrisonburg, and you also lead some retreats. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've got coming up?
Oh, thank you for asking. I'm so excited. Yeah, so I've been doing this for several years because same thing when my kids were in their college and I just was like, okay, what's next? What do I want to do? So started running some retreats, and then we've been to Iceland and Italy twice, Galapagos, Mexico. So, but yeah, I just got back from Italy with a group of, and it turns out only women showed up, which was kind of cool. Well, it wasn't supposed to be that way, but only women signed up. So that was fun. But yeah, we'll be in Ireland in September, and we've got couples signed up. We've got 2 rooms left, I think, for that one. And so we've got lots of couples. We got some friends coming, moms or sisters and mothers coming, a big group of people. And then Scotland, I keep doing that. Switzerland
Switzerland.
is next year. Yeah.
I
So
saw some pictures. Ooh, that looks amazing.
yeah. And retreats are so special because they're a big investment of time and money and all of that. And so I understand that. But I can only say that when you go on one of these, it's not like a vacation the same way you might think of a vacation, because you get to go and so much of it is planned for you already, and so you get to really just kind of lean back into the group and into the experiences. We do yoga every day, but nobody has to be a yoga practitioner at all. It's just a time for us to move our bodies, get grounded, connect as a group, and then also digest the experiences that we're having, because oftentimes when we are on vacation or whatever, another country, we're spending so much of our time figuring out what's next. Like, where do you want to eat? What do you want to do? Do you catch the bus? Do you get your train? Blah, blah, blah. And you're just like doing that all the time, right? And so it can be really exhausting, but these are just really nourishing and fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
love how I feel like retreats are almost like just an opportunity to step outside of your normal routine and really care for and nourish yourself on that soul level, in community, in support, balancing the fun with the inner searching or inner knowing, inner guidance.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's just such a fun way and inspiring, empowering way to really connect with yourself and support yourself.
I know. Aren't they? Isn't it great? I know we should have a local retreat. You and I and Nikki and
That would be fun.
I know. It's on my bucket, but
I
pretty
know.
much, yeah.
Well, I will link in the show notes to your upcoming retreats so that anybody who's listening now can check those out and maybe go with you. And people can find you on Instagram at Centered Living with Suzanne, also your website, Centered Living with Suzanne. So I will link to those in the show notes. I feel like we could go on all day because I love yoga and you love yoga. And I've dabbled in Ayurveda, but you have that wealth of knowledge about it where you support women with it. But
Gosh, yeah.
if there's anything else on your heart, any final thoughts that you would like to leave our listeners with today, is there anything that comes up for you?
Yeah, well, I will say too that so let me just go back a little bit and before I do that really quickly, and just want to remind women too that if you want to talk about anything that's coming up for you, whether it's something physical or emotional, or you're trying to work through a stuck point in your life, in your job or in your life, or you just feel like there's something that you need, that there's something deeply calling out to you, but you're not even sure what it is. Let's talk, because I've got another group starting of my Embodied Vitality starting in the fall. And I will be sending out an email soon about getting like in the early bird part, getting your name in first. And so if anybody wants, I can also talk to people about that. I have free discovery sessions all the time and things like that. And so, yeah, I guess if there's any nugget or what have you, gosh, there's so much. I would just say that women are so powerful and so wise. And I don't mean powerful necessarily in this hands on your hips, standing on top of the mountaintop kind of way, because that might be for somebody and it might not be for somebody. But I mean powerful and our ability and her ability to heal herself and to really know herself. And when we heal ourselves, it's not selfish. When we know ourselves, it's not selfish, these practices. And what you do is you actually show up more fully and authentically yourself. And I'm a work in progress. I still don't have all of it together either. But I promise you that when you start to do that more for yourself, it will have an amazing impact on not just your life, but the people that you live with, your pets, your community, the planet. Like, you actually make a difference because you are choosing to, I mean, not to be silly, but you're choosing to raise your awareness, to be more mindful, to raise your vibration, and you show up differently in the world. And thank God we can do that. Thank God we have the choice to do that. We are able to do that. So Yeah.
I had goosebumps when you said that. Thank you.
Oh,
And I'm glad you brought up, go ahead.
you. Yeah. So.
I'm glad you brought up embodied vitality because I forgot to mention that, but I know that I've heard such amazing things about that. So I'll definitely link to that in the show notes as well, so people can
Okay,
check it
great.
out.
It's fun. And women we get together in groups and we just do this work together and they support each other and people have made lifelong friends together. They've come to Italy to, like it's just this cute little, it's just an amazing group of women. So yeah, anyone's welcome.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. This was such a powerful episode, and I know that your insights are going to be helpful to everybody who listens. So,
Thank you.
yes, thank you for tuning in.